I've been chased before, by animals, by people, but nothing has ever made my heart stop the way that thing did when it ran after me in those woods. I've spent most of my life outdoors, hiking, camping, sleeping alone under trees, without thinking twice about it. Nothing ever really scared me out there, not even the usual noises that make most people back up and leave. That changed last summer when I decided to camp alone in Wychwood Forest. I'd always heard people call it one of the most haunted places in the UK, but I assumed it was just stories locals told to keep kids out. I didn't believe any of it, and that confidence carried me all the way past the warning signs and deep into the tree line, where the light fades faster than it should. I reached a small clearing late in the afternoon. The trees were tall enough to block most of the sky, and the air felt heavier than usual. But I set up my tent the same way I always do. The forest was quiet in a way that felt peaceful at first. I ate, sat by a small fire, and watched the shadows stretch out across the ground as the evening settled in. By the time the last bit of light disappeared, I was tired in that comfortable way you get after a long hike. I crawled into the tent and fell asleep almost immediately. Sometime later, I woke up with the immediate sense that something wasn't right. Not because of a noise or a dream, but because my body reacted before my mind caught up. My chest felt tight, my breath felt shallow, and the air inside the tent seemed stale, like it hadn't moved in hours. I lay there listening, waiting to understand what had pulled me out of sleep. At first, there was nothing. No wind, no insects, no movement in the branches. The forest was unnaturally still, the kind of stillness that makes your stomach tighten because every instinct you have starts telling you that you're being observed. I grabbed the torch just in case and listened. I tried to convince myself that it was just the heaviness of waking up suddenly, but that didn't last long. Somewhere behind the tent, I heard the faint crunch of leaves. It wasn't the snap of a twig or the shuffle of something small. I immediately froze. There are sounds you can explain away as deer or foxes, but this wasn't either of those. It was deliberate, measured, and too controlled to be an animal. I listened harder, hoping it would fade or move in another direction, but instead, it grew closer, one slow step at a time. I felt my heart begin pounding in my chest. The steps paused directly behind where I was lying. Tents give people a false sense of protection, but they're nothing more than fabric. If something wanted to get in, it would take less than a second. For a second, I thought it was my imagination, but then something banged on my tent. That was the moment I knew I couldn't stay inside. Without giving myself any more time to think, I unzipped the door, pushed it open, and ran. I didn't even grab my shoes. I didn't take anything with me. I just moved. The shock of the cold soil on my feet made everything sharper, and I could hear every breath I took as I sprinted into the darkness between the trees. For a moment, the forest felt endless, like it swallowed the sound of my movement, but I was very aware that my footsteps weren't the only ones there. The sound behind me started almost immediately. Something was running after me, matching my speed closely enough that I could feel the timing of its steps lining up with mine, always an instant behind. It wasn't stumbling or crashing through the undergrowth. It wasn't panting or growling or making any noise besides those terrible, steady steps that never missed a beat. I had no idea how something could move that fast in the dark without hitting branches or slipping, but it moved with the confidence of something that knew the forest far better than I did. My mind was racing as fast as my legs. Every tree I passed felt identical. Every direction looked the same, and I couldn't tell if I was heading toward the path or deeper into the woods. But stopping wasn't an option. The steps behind me were too close, too synchronized with my movement. My fear shifted from confusion into something deeper, something primal that I hadn't felt since I was a child. It felt like whatever was behind me wasn't just chasing. It was tracking, following me with intention, the kind that doesn't rush because it knows you'll tire before it will. I stumbled once when my foot caught on a root hidden beneath the leaves. I hit the ground hard enough that the breath was knocked out of me, and for a second I couldn't move. The forest around me fell silent again, but this time it wasn't comforting. It felt like the quiet you get before something reveals itself. I pushed myself upright, terrified to turn around, but more terrified not to. When I looked behind me, there was nothing. No shape, no eyes, no shadow. Just the same endless pattern of trees, unmoving and empty. I wanted to believe that meant I was alone again, but the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something had paused when I paused, waiting for the next signal. I forced myself up and started moving again, slower this time, but more focused, trying to listen over the sound of my own breathing. Not even 30 seconds passed before the footsteps started again, picking up right behind me as if they hadn't stopped at all, as if they had simply mirrored my pause and were waiting for me to resume. By that point, my body was running on pure fear. My legs burned, my lungs ached, and every breath felt like it scraped against my ribs, but I kept going. The trees eventually thinned enough that a faint line of moonlight appeared between them, and I recognized the faint outline of the path. Seeing it gave me a burst of desperate hope I didn't think I had left. I sprinted toward it, ignoring every branch that hit my face and every rock that stabbed my feet. When I reached the edge of the path, the footsteps behind me stopped again, so abruptly that the sudden silence almost made me fall. I could feel the presence behind me, even if I couldn't see it. It felt like standing near an animal you know is dangerous, something with its attention locked directly on you. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I stepped onto the path and didn't stop moving until I saw the faint shape of my car through the trees. I slapped my hand against my pocket and felt my car keys. I didn't think about it. I just ran. I practically collapsed into the driver's seat, slammed the door shut, and locked it with shaking hands. My breathing was ragged. My body felt like it was vibrating, but I forced myself to look out the window, expecting to see something emerge from the tree line. The path was empty. The forest was still. Nothing moved. But that didn't bring the relief I thought it would. If anything, the emptiness made it worse. It made me realize whatever had followed me knew exactly how to stay hidden. I sat there for several minutes, trying to steady myself. The night felt too quiet again, but now it wasn't the same quiet as before. This quiet felt watched, like the trees themselves were holding something back. Eventually, I started the engine and drove away, not once looking in the rearview mirror. To this day, I still go hiking, but I've never gone back to Wychwood. I don't camp alone anymore either. I can convince myself that fear exaggerates things, that panic fills in blanks, but I can't explain the footsteps. I can't explain how perfectly they matched my speed, how they stopped when I stopped, or how they returned the moment I moved. Whatever was in those woods that night stayed just out of sight, but it followed me long enough to make sure I knew it was there. And the truth is, I'm still not sure which part terrifies me more, that it chased me or that it chose not to catch me. Thanks for watching No Sleep Tonight. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and keep these horrors coming. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, sleep well.